Hello everyone. In this video, you will learn how to import Reservoir grade step by step into Geomodeling software. All products in Geomodeling share the same database and same UI of data importing and exporting. In Geomodeling software, we only support Eclipse grade file format to import the Reservoir grade, and there are two ways that you can start the importing process. The first one is you can go to the top main menu, select Import and Reservoir grade. In this way, the File tab is selected as the Eclipse file format, grade geometry, and properties. This File tab is suitable if you don't have any Eclipse grade geometry imported in the project. And if the File tab is selected as the grade geometry and properties, then in your original file, you must have these 4 keywords related to the grade geometry, including the spec grade, the coorn, which related to the coordinates of x and y, the z-coorn, which related to the z coordinates, and the last one is the active number, which related to the active cells number in the reservoir grade. And another way to import reservoir grade properties is that you can right-click on the reservoir grade and select Import. And the File tab is selected as the Eclipse file format grade properties, which doesn't contain the geometry information. And this situation is suitable if you import the grade geometry already and you want to import more grade properties. Let's start importing the reservoir grade geometry and properties first. You need to go to the top main menu, select Import and Reservoir grade, and then you can select the Eclipse grade file. And make sure the File tab is selected as the Eclipse file, grade geometry and properties. Here is the file example, and you can click Preview to see the data in your original file. Then you can click Open to start the importing process. So the first thing you need to do is to define if the coordinate system is global or local. And then here is the grid information regarding the number of cells in XYZ direction and the total cells number. And you can define the unit for the X, Y, and Z. And it can be different from the project unit. If it's different, then the program will automatically convert it to the project units. And you can check this checkbox to negate Z value if necessary. And then you need to specify the file coordinate system. If it's the same as the project coordinate system, you can select the second one. Otherwise, you need to select the third one and use this button to select another project coordinate system. And the program will automatically convert it to the project coordinate system. Then you can click Next. And in this page, you can define the reservoir model name. If you want to edit it, you can do that. This shows the data range for X, Y, Z, and you need to specify the invalid value if there is one. And you have this option to compute geometric property grades. This is checked on in default, which generates a folder called Geometry Properties that includes grades of IJK, XYZ, and cell size. These geometry grades can be used as input for generating new property grades or simply for visualization or QC purpose. If you don't select this option during this importing stage, you can still generate the geometry property grades through a red button menu after you import the reservoir grade. These are the properties included in the Eclipse grade file that you selected. And what you need to do is you need to select the correct template for each properties. And for example, the first one is the permeability, and here this one is selected correctly. And the second one should be the water saturation, so you can use this drop down menu to select that. So for example, you can tap S to find the keywords, and let me select this water saturation, and then you can click finish to import the reservoir grade geometry and properties. And the reservoir grade has been imported. As you can see, it's saved under the Geomodel tab. So you can see from the tree view, this is the tree hierarchy of the reservoir model. So this is the reservoir grade I just imported, and below that we can see the model boundary listed here, and this is the framework grade for the reservoir grade. It shows the geometry, pillars, horizons, faults, and zones within this reservoir grade. So you can expand those, and those can be visualized in the visualization window as well. And for the zones, now we only have one zone within this reservoir grade. If you have multiple zones, there will be multiple zones listed here. So this is the scenario 1, and this is the scenario realization 1, which belongs to this scenario. For a reservoir grade, it can have multiple scenarios under the same reservoir grade. And for each scenario, we also have its geometry, pillars, horizons, faults, and zones. And these are the property grades I just imported. So you can see this is the geometry attributes. So if you have checked the geometry attributes to be computed when you import the reservoir grade, then those will be listed here. And you can right click on the geometry attributes to recalculate geometric attributes as well. So these are two property grades I just imported. One is the permeability and another is the water saturation grade. And you can open a 3D window to visualize the reservoir grade. So this is the geometry, and this shows the model boundary. At the bottom, there is a button to show the reservoir grade top of the bottom line. So you can select that to display the cell on the reservoir grade. So you can also click on these properties to show the properties. So this is the permeability, and this is the water saturation. If you double click on the reservoir grade, you can go to its properties page and change the display range for the color map. And you can notice that for this reservoir grade, there is a folder called faults. This is because in the original file, we have the faults information. And if you can click that, you can select to show all the faults included in this reservoir grade. As you can see here, these are all the faults in this reservoir grade. You can change the visualization properties for the faults displayed in the visualization window. If you double click on one of the faults and go to the visualization tab, you can fill the color instead of by Z value, you can fill the color by object color. And you can hit apply, and also this apply to all button to fill the color for each fault by the object color. If you don't have any faults in your reservoir grade original file, then here it won't show this folder. You can see the reservoir grade has been separated by those faults, and this is the permeability grade, which you can see this is the fault plan here. And you can also display the wells and the seismic in the 3D window together with the reservoir grade to see the reservoir grade. And after you import this reservoir grade and these properties, if you want to import more properties on this reservoir grade, you can right click on this reservoir grade and select import. And then you need to select that properties. And the file type is selected as the Eclipse file format grade properties, which doesn't contain the geometry, as you have already imported the geometry information for the reservoir grade. So you can click preview to see the data in your data file. And then click open. So in this case, I import the properties grade. And you can see you only have this page, which indicates the data range for the result grade, and you need to define the template for the properties. So this one is porosity, and it has been automatically defined. And then click finish. The property grade has been imported, and you can click to show it in the 3D window. So this is the property grade I just imported. And you can double click on the reservoir grade. In the visualization tab, you can change the subgrade range to slice through the reservoir grade so that you can see the cross section that cuts through the reservoir grade in XYZ direction. And after importing the reservoir grade, you can continue the reservoir grade physics modeling and property modeling process in our Reservoir Studio product, and it can also be the constraint to define the cell size for the upscaling scenario in the aspect modeling workflow. This is the end of the video of importing reservoir grade into geomodeling software. If you have any question, please send a message to support@geomodeling.com. Thanks for watching.